Welcome back to another edition of Baseball for Maniacs. Guys, this is not going to be a fun episode. So, I kid you not, I just got done uploading MLB free agency update video to the YouTube channel. Me and Ryan finally got back to be able to do a podcast together. We went over just kind of where MLB free agency has been up until this point, where we think the remaining free agents are going to sign. Yes, we talked about Kyle Tucker. And right when I was in the middle of editing, my buddy Ryan texts me some unseen things that I can't say on the podcast, and I knew something big just happened. So what do? I go to Twitter, X, whatever you call it, doesn't matter anymore. And I find out that Kyle Tucker has signed with the LA Dodgers. So initial thought, just unreal, right? And I really wanted to get the idea of the contract. So I found out it is 4 years, $240 million with an opt-out after year 2. Ladies and gentlemen, Kyle Tucker is the most paid athlete in baseball on an AAV year-to-year basis. He's going to be making $60 million a year. And all this crap about, well, anyone can spend like the Dodgers is complete and utter BS. No team besides maybe the Mets can compete with that. Now, you might say, I kind of have this viewpoint too, other teams should have been on Kyle Tucker long term. But a major league team has offered a player $60 million a year. And it's frustrating because I've always been under the notion that big league teams, owners should spend, right? We have a great owner in John Middleton who is just one of the best, spending money, trying to win a championship. You got Steve Cohen. Obviously, you have the Dodgers. You got the Astros. You got the Yankees. Great owners, right? Willing to spend the money. But no one besides Steve Cohen can compete with the Dodgers' money. All the investors, they have billionaires, multiple of them, investing in the Dodgers to where they can give this kind of contract out. I think this spells disaster for the impending lockout after the 2026 season. Now, if the Dodgers don't win, it helps out. And I just don't know really where you go from here because, what does a salary cap mean? Because the players have already said they're not going to accept a salary cap. If the deciding factor is a salary cap or playing baseball in 2027, ladies and gentlemen, we will not have a 2027 baseball season. And that breaks my heart because I love baseball. But the Dodgers are back-to-back World Series champions. They had a down year in the regular season, and they got hot and they steamrolled to the World Series. Now, granted, the Blue Jays gave them a hell of a fight, but they just added Kyle Tucker to that team. I don't want to ever talk like a loser. As Bryce Harper said, if you complain about the Dodgers, you're a loser. And I agree. But it's just, man, at what point does enough become enough? And I get into with these Dodgers fans all the time, and they don't want to compete. They genuinely don't. They just want to stack the deck. And it's utterly ridiculous that an ownership that just won back-to-back World Series wants to keep pushing. And it's I don't even blame them, but it's if you're a Dodgers fan, is this even fun for you? You just won back-to-back World Series and you got a top 5 player, top 10 player. What's the regular season even mean to you? What does the postseason mean to you if you just steamrolled through the entire postseason? So Dodgers fans, save me. I'm not gonna curse, but save me the crap, dude. This isn't fun for you. If you want to pump out your chest and say our owner's great, cool, do all that. This is ridiculous. This is absolutely ridiculous. But enough on that Dodgers talk because I really don't want to sound like a loser. What does this mean for the Philadelphia Phillies? I think this sucks because Bo Bichette just got another team in the market for him, a legit team, the Toronto Blue Jays. Where's Bo Bichette from? The Toronto Blue Jays. What is Bo Bichette most likely going to do? Return to the Toronto Blue Jays. Because if they were legit really in on Kyle Tucker, Bo Bichette's going to be cheaper, AAV-wise. So it just makes the Bo Bichette signing that much more difficult. I've been clamoring for, or just saying that Bo Bichette's coming to the Phillies. And now I'm not so sure. I really think he's going to go back to Toronto. And that sucks because if Bo Bichette goes to Toronto, What do? Sign JT? Give JT what he wants? Overpay for a 35-year-old catcher? Because I mentioned in my episode a couple days ago, if Bo signs somewhere else, JT has all the leverage. And because there's not another star out there, what are you going to do? Get a Eugenio Suarez on a 2-year deal? Cool. How are you going to compete with the Dodgers if you don't get Bo Bichette? So I think Dave Dombrowski and John Middleton need to do everything in their power. This is really for John Middleton, and I just got done praising him. You better go get Bo Bichette. Because if you don't get Bo Bichette, there is no chance in hell you're competing with them for a World Series. Even if you do get Bo Bichette, it's going to be a uphill battle. So you need to put on your big boy pants, Mr. John Middleton, and pay whatever it takes. If it has to be $300 million, it has to be $320 million, you do it. Because covering Phillies baseball the last 2 weeks or so, it's always fun, right? I love Phillies baseball. Has been a joy because I've been under the notion that Bo Bichette is coming to Philadelphia. Now that puts whatever the saying, man, I'm just pissed. It just sucks. And I don't even think it's like blaming like the other teams for not spending, because I feel like Toronto was in on it. I feel like other teams, well, it's really just Toronto, right? The Mets kind of offered the same thing, but if he goes to the Mets, the Mets didn't even make the playoffs last year. They're not a real threat, even with Kyle Tucker. They're a good team, but it's not the LA Dodgers. So I don't know what's gonna happen. If I had to get, like, guys, I'm in shock. Like, it's just so deflating when this happens. But that's kind of baseball, man. Like, when you don't have a salary cap, and I have never been in favor of a salary cap. If you're a fan of the Philadelphia Phillies, you shouldn't be in favor of a salary cap, because then that would cut our spending. But with the Dodgers having quite literally unlimited funds, and they can keep doing this. They can keep doing this. They could even sign Bo Bichette. Like, that's the kind of money they have, to where I don't know, like, is a salary cap coming? Because if a salary cap comes, you have to give up a year of baseball. But at what point does enough become enough? I've probably gone on a tangent, but basically my live reaction is this spells disaster for Bo Bichette coming to the Philadelphia Phillies, because it's not just like another team opened up, let's say like the Yankees or so, right? Like I don't think they're gonna pry away Bo from the Phillies, because I really think he wants to be a Philadelphia Philly. But I think the only team that's a real threat to get him is the Toronto Blue Jays. He grew up there. I don't think he ever wanted to leave. I think Bo Bichette went into this offseason almost banking on him returning to Toronto. And then things changed with, them signing Dylan Cease, Okamoto, all the moves they made. And then the reports of them being in on Kyle Tucker, there really wasn't a fit for Bo Bichette. Philly were the only team that were in the market to give him a long-term deal. That has now changed. And the team that is now in on him is the team he was just on. And I think the team deep down, he prefers with staying in. Because you heard all the reports that Bo Bichette liked the Phillies because the Clearwater is about 10 minutes away from him. Dude, the Phillies play the Blue Jays all the time because they're in Dunedin. It's like, he's gonna go back to the Blue Jays, and we're gonna pivot to JT. We're gonna overpay for JT. Alec Bohm is going to be our 4-hitter. Let that sink in. Alec freaking Bohm is going to be our 4-hitter on opening day. And I'm just deflated because quite literally last night when I was talking baseball with Jack Fritz, great episode, go check it out. It was a pleasure to talk baseball with him. But the energy in that singular episode of when we talked about Bo Bichette, the hype around 2026, the All-Star game coming to Philly, us putting in all our chips to compete with the team like the Dodgers that were already a juggernaut before getting Kyle Tucker. Now, like, what is it, right? But if the Phillies do end up signing Bo Bichette, even with Kyle Tucker going to the Blue Jays, I think the Phillies can compete. If you don't get Bo Bichette, I don't want to be that fan that just doom and gloom, but that's how I'm feeling right now. Because I know in baseball, anything can happen, right? Any team can beat any team on any given day. But can you beat them in a 5-game series? Can you beat a team like the Dodgers in a 7-game series? And my thought right now is if we don't get Bo, is absolutely not. So we're just going to have to see how things play out. I think we're going to find out our answer very, very soon, because I think it's between Toronto and the Phillies for Bo Bichette. Dave Dombrowski, land the damn plane. But in all reality, it's on John Middleton. You have to get Bo Bichette now. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it, because going into the offseason, you signed Kyle Schwarber, you re-signed him. You put all your chips in, and you're going to put all your chips in for Bo Bichette. But now if you don't get Bo and you have all these players locked up, Schwarber, Turner, Harper, like, our window to win is now. But if you got to compete against a team like the Dodgers, it's going to make that unbelievably difficult. So this sucks. Like, genuinely, like, I don't know what else to say to you guys. I'm devastated. I just really wish he went to the Blue Jays, to where then it would have almost been a lock for Bo Bichette to come to the Phillies. I really hope in the coming days I get that notification that Bo Bichette is signed a 8-9 year, $260-300 million. I don't care, dude. Get it done. Get it signed on the dotted paper. Get Bo Bichette to Philly, and let's compete with that juggernaut. That'll do it for this episode of Baseball for Maniacs. You guys have a good one, and I'll catch you guys tomorrow.